How is everyone today? Good. Everyone from the Wichita area? Anyone from outside Wichita? Topeka?
Kansas.
What, Southeast Kansas?
Yep.
Well, nice of you to join us today. My name is Kristen Armstrong, and I'm an elder law attorney who practices in Hutchinson. And I've been invited to talk to you today about the sandwich generation and kind of give you some tips on how to live if you are in the sandwich generation or you find yourself in the sandwich generation. And then with that, I'm going to talk about some important documents and things for you to be able to plan and prepare if you are in the sandwich generation or if you know somebody who is. My materials, I've told Tanya that she is welcome to put them online. So when you leave here today, they're going to upload them to the resources page of the conference. That way you are free to download them and use them with you will. I do put more words than most and kind of than you're supposed to on your PowerPoints. I'm not going to read directly from them, but that way you can use them as a resource actually when you get home, kind of more as an outline if you choose to do so. So. How many people have heard of elder law? Is there anyone? Actually, more than most, more than I'm used to when I'm giving a presentation. Elder law is kind of a newer area of the law. It's been around, I would say, it's been around for about 20, 25 years, but there haven't been that many people who are practicing in the area of elder law. In the state of Kansas, there are about 40 of us true elder law attorneys. As one would expect, most of the elder law attorneys are in the Kansas City metro area, Lawrence, Topeka, Kansas City. There's about 5 to 10 of us in what some would say Western Kansas. I don't normally consider Hutchinson to be Western Kansas, but let's say west of Wichita. There's only about 5 to 10 of us. I'm friends with most of them all. We're great colleagues. We all work together. We collaborate well. And we kind of bring about the practice of elder law. So be careful of anybody who says that they practice in the area of elder law. If you can't find them on the NALA website, which I will give you at the end of the presentation, just be careful about them as a true elder law attorney. As my law school professor said, unless you're going to pay the big bucks to NALA to be an elder law attorney, you're basically just dabbling in it, and that's dangerous for you and that's dangerous for the clients. So elder law is not simply just doing estate planning. That's a large component of what I do for people. I would say probably about 30 to 40% of my practice is actual estate planning. And certainly there are a lot of estate planners in most of your communities. But there's also a lot of general practitioners, and the general practitioners may do a will one day, they may do a divorce another day, they may, do a DUI case and a bankruptcy, and they're doing all of the different things. We as lawyers are not allowed to say that we specialize in anything, all right? So I can't say that I specialize in elder law, but I can say that I dedicate my practice to elder law, and that's all I do all day, every day. Like I said, estate planning is a big component about that, and I'm going to talk some more about that today. But the majority of my practice is true elder law in the sense of I'm helping people with long-term care planning. That means Medicaid planning. That means some veterans benefits. That means, kind of analyzing their long-term care insurance, navigating them through what that will pay for, what that won't pay for. Lots of divisions of assets, lots of assistance, what they would call spending down in the Medicaid field. That is my passion. That's what I love to do all day, every day. I feel like I get to help people the most when they are feeling the most vulnerable. My best compliment that anybody can ever give me is when they come back to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, Kristen, I was finally able to get some sleep last night because I don't have to worry about the financial burden of paying for my husband's nursing home or paying for my wife's nursing home." Because that can be very, very, very overwhelming. And sometimes that's the thing that keeps people at home, is it's just a financial worry of going bankrupt. And there is a solution for that. Congress put solutions in place so that you don't have to worry about that. And that's what I do. That's the biggest component of elder law. What is the sandwich generation? Has anyone here, how many of you have heard of the term sandwich generation? All right, most of you. So typically when we're talking about the sandwich generation, we're talking about people who are somewhere between the age of 35 and 50 years old. They have children at home, either, someone under the age of 18, or maybe children who have gone away just recently to college. And they also have elderly parents. Now, I don't come up with the term elderly. The term elderly is written in the law as age 65 or older. My dad just turned 65. If I called him elderly, he'd probably throw a shoe at me, all right? But that's what the law determines it to be, both state and federal. 65 years and older is elderly. Most of my clients whom I would maybe consider elderly are, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95 years old. But technically 65 and older. I do have a handful of clients, early onset Alzheimer's, particularly among women, is growing. And I've had, just this year, I had a month where I had 3 women in their 50s that had progressive early onset Alzheimer's to the point where they were actually going into long-term care in their 50s. The laws are really difficult for those kinds of clients because they don't meet that elderly criteria of 65. They don't also meet a criteria of being physically disabled, even if the Alzheimer's or dementia leads to physical problems. But that's a whole different speaker session for you on there. But I think the big takeaway that I have done in my studies on that and listening to speakers is be wary of drugs like Benadryl and things like that if you're worried about early onset Alzheimer's. Nearly 1/3 of all Americans likely find themselves in the sandwich generation. That means that they are actively being a caregiver for children at home, and they're also being a caregiver or at least being relied upon by their parents to take care of them as well. So like I said, about 1/3. Most of the people who find themselves in this generation actually find their lives to be more rewarding and their familial relationships to be more rewarding. But I will tell you that most people who find themselves in this situation are also really, really, really burnt out. And so these are just some helpful tips to help you get through that. What are we doing as parents that are running us ragged? Well, we're taking our kids to appointments. We're basically their Uber driver. I take my daughter to school, take my son to school, pick her up, take her to basketball, take her to softball, take her to this, take her to that. I'm always driving her somewhere. That in and of itself is a full-time job sometimes, it feels like. Providing hands-on care, administrative, logistical tasks, making doctor's appointments. The same thing can be true for caregivers. You're running your full-time job, you are taking care of your house, you are also doing the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. You are doing all of the things, right? It can be easy, very easy to become overwhelmed and overburdened with that. I'm lucky to have a spouse that helps me out. He kind of learned that I'm going to need some help back in law school. My daughter was 6 months old when I started law school. And I was also working about 37 hours a week. So full-time job in law school with an infant. So lots of help at my house. Things haven't changed much. But at the point, I'm just now kind of getting at the point where my parents are starting to need some help, taking them to various appointments and things like that. So that's a whole nother layer, a whole nother burden for some people. Not to say that it's a bad thing. Burden kind of has a negative connotation. I don't know if that's the right word. But it's another thing to do and another thing to have to juggle. 5 tips for minimizing and managing if you find yourself. Number 1, prioritize self-care. Self-care does not mean, I'm going to go to the grocery store for an hour and I'm going to shop around and get things that I need. That's not self-care, right? Self-care is going to get a massage. Self-care is going to get your nails done, unless you're me, and then it's like just another appointment or thing you have to do. But find the thing that you enjoy doing. It might mean that you want to go get a hotel room for the evening just to be alone and watch television, the television show that you want to watch, or the movie that you want to watch, or to read the book that you want to read. Make sure that you're prioritizing your self-care. I know that we hear that, it's stereotypical, but it is true, especially if you find yourself in the thick of caring for not only the young, but also the old. Don't feel guilty for taking the necessary breaks. Don't feel guilty for saying, no, I can't do that right now, I have to do this. Number 2, delegate where you can. This was a big one for me. I wasn't raised necessarily poor or impoverished, but I wasn't raised in a wealthy household either. Very much working middle class. My mom and my dad both worked outside the home. But with that, my dad also traveled, and my mom was still doing the household things, the laundry, the dishes, cooking dinner every night, all of those things. And it wasn't like we had a lot of money or extra resources to farm out the extra help. On the other hand, what I have since learned, so what was really difficult for me when I had my second child, my kids are about 10 years apart, but when I had my second child 3 years ago, things were just falling through the cracks. As much planning and scheduling and as much as I was trying to do, my household was a disaster, which meant my husband was unhappy and was annoyed because it was causing anxiety to him, it was causing anxiety to me. My husband also was working, he works in the hotel development industry, so he was traveling all over the country during that period of time. So what did we do? Hired somebody to handle the lawn care. We hired somebody to come in and help clean up the house. That was the big one that I was resistant to. It's something that I'm supposed to do. It's my job. I'm supposed to clean. My kids are here. Why can't the kids help clean? I finally had to just put it away. Oh, and the big thing was I didn't want to clean for the cleaners to come, right? That's like a whole job in and of itself. So finally I had to let that go. And I said, all right, just need somebody to come in and help me tidy up a couple of hours every couple of weeks. Big tidy up kind of thing. I don't pay somebody to deep clean my house because guess what? I have a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old and a husband. It's gonna get dirty anyway, right? I just needed some help with the tidying up. And hey, you wanna throw a load of laundry in the dishwasher or in the washing machine? Great, do that for me too. It's those small things that can be a really big help. That may also mean that gives you time to help your parents. It may be that mom has been the one that has always done the housekeeping and the laundry and the cooking. Mom's getting older and she's getting more tired. She too might also be resistant to having somebody come in the house because of the mindset and maybe how she was raised, and maybe it's because it's the thing she's always done. But if that is something that would take a lot of load off of her and give her more energy and help her relax and give her peace of mind, or even your dad, we don't have to be sexist about this, find that housekeeper that you trust that's gonna come in just a couple of hours a week to do a tidy up, right? It's no different than if we have Meals on Wheels or we have somebody preparing meals and we're delivering the meals in. But find that thing. It could be outsourcing the laundry. I don't have I could take it to the dry cleaners, that would be really expensive, but I don't have somewhere that I can outsource. But here in the Wichita area, I know there's services that will pick up the laundry or do the laundry, fold it, and deliver it. Find those people to help. It could be a high school kid, it could be a college kid. Outsource what you can and don't feel bad about it, right? If you want to compare, especially when we're talking about your parents' resources, if you want to compare the cost of independent living, assisted living, and a nursing home versus the cost of having somebody come in the house and maybe put the meds out and maybe do the laundry or maybe pick up the house, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to have them helping in the home. Do that. Subsidize in the home as much as you can. But it also might be outsourcing. Number 3, embrace structure and routine. I just turned 40 last week. Woo! What I got for my birthday, I asked for one of those electronic calendars that will sync up all of my calendars, and then it's got like a picture frame kind of thing with it. I'm not the most tech savvy, but I'm trying to figure it out because what I'm doing is I'm juggling the basketball calendar right now, and then I have the house calendar. Oh, and my 3-year-old, for some reason, we thought it was gonna be great for him to enroll in basketball because that's gonna be a thing, I'm sure. And then I've got the work calendar, and obviously I can't sync up my work calendar, with confidential information, but I can at least know when I'm in work and when I'm in a basketball game and when I'm gonna be doing who knows what else, wherever else, right? Type A, Most lawyers are, probably most of you here today are. Link up those calendars. There's lots of calendar apps. There's lots of things that you can use. Use the calendars and use the technology to link the appointments together, right? So you're not managing multiple calendars for your parents, for your kids, and for yourself. And the other thing is just kind of finding a routine and sticking to the routine as much as possible. For me, that means that my heavy work days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I am back to back to back to back to back to back to back with clients. So if you call me in and you're a current client and you call me in on a Monday and say, hey, can we chat tomorrow just for 10 minutes? I don't have 10 minutes anywhere on my calendar because I am literally back to back to back to back, Monday through Wednesday. Thursday, I keep open. I keep that open for returning those phone calls, catching up on the emails, doing the actual work that I can't get done Monday through Wednesday. And then guess what? I take Fridays off. Right? That may mean that I'm working on Sunday night to review things for Monday and gives you kind of the Monday scaries. But for me, that's what works for me is Monday through Wednesday, hard. Thursday is my catch-up day. My daughter's in basketball. Guess what? Basketball games are Mondays and Thursdays. So now I've got to adapt. Right? Same thing when your parents are getting older and they've got the doctor's appointments and all the things, adapt. But block scheduling works wonders. If you've never tried it, talk to me after, but block scheduling is really, really helpful. Communicate openly. Communicate openly with your children, with your spouse, with other caregivers, and with your parents. So you're going to communicate to your kids, hey, Mommy's really busy and I need you to make sure that you are picking up your floor every day. With my daughter, it's when you get home from school or you get home from practice, I need you to unload the dishwasher so that it's empty so I can put the dishes in after dinner. With my husband, it's, hey, I'm gonna work late. It's either gonna be Monday or Tuesday. Okay, you're busy on Monday, I'm gonna be working late on Tuesday. Where can we arrange this? With your parents, same thing. What's our availability? When are we not available? But they need to know that they're not being a burden to you, okay? And they want to hear that from you. When it comes time to communicating about elder law issues, so when is it time to downsize from their house to independent living, or from their house to assisted living, or their house to nursing home care? There needs to be open communications with that, okay? Take them to some of the facilities. We're not supposed to use the word facilities, they don't like it anymore, but technically that's really what it is. Take them around to some of these places to get an idea of where they would like to live if they had to leave the house. Most of us do not want to leave home when we're a senior. The reality is about 7 out of 10 are going to leave the home and enter the nursing home for some point in time. The average nursing home stay, last I checked, was about 7 months. So the reality is most of us and most of your parents at some point, at least one of them, are going to end up in long-term care. Know what is available in your community and in your area. Wichita is one of the hardest places for long-term care placement when you're looking at assisted living. If you don't have a large amount of resources, assisted living is really difficult, and nursing home can be difficult as well, even more so than Johnson County, believe it or not. And certainly much more difficult than my Hutchinson clients. If we are talking about asset restructuring, I'm jumping a little bit ahead here because I want to talk about the important documents and things, but if we're talking about asset restructuring and moving money around and protecting assets, or spending these assets but saving these assets, it needs to be a conversation where all of the family members, including all of the siblings and all of the children, not your young children, I'm talking about mom and dad's children, so your siblings, they all need to be involved and they all need to be at the table. If you want to reduce the chance of litigation and disharmony amongst the family members, open communication is the key. Okay. I did estate and trust litigation as a paralegal for 9 years before I became an attorney. I've done about every job, literally, from scrubbing toilets to now owning the law firm. Estate and trust litigation, I can tell you all of the stories. Okay. Open and honest communication with mom and dad and with your siblings is what's going to be key. Know when it's time to make a change. This is the hardest for you. It's the hardest for your parents. It's the hardest for them to make the decision for each other. It's much more difficult for the wives to make the decision to put their husbands into nursing home. In my experience, women were known to be, more nurturing and, it's our job, it's our responsibility, and I can do it, and I can do it. And women will literally kill themselves to keep their husbands at home as long as possible and out of the nursing home. My male clients, they might come to me in tears because they have to put their wife in the nursing home, but they know that it's time for their wife to be in the nursing home, right? They're going in a whole lot faster. We women, we're going in a whole lot faster if the job is on the husband, okay? Like I said, they might be in tears and crying and really upset about it, but they know when their time is, okay? When you are a caregiver, do I have any caregivers in here right now for mom and dad? Okay. It is really difficult for the caregivers to know where they are. I can't remember the phrase, see the forest through the trees, I think that's it, trees through the forest. It's really difficult for caregivers to know because they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and they're adding on more and more and more and more and more and more and more until they have that heart attack or they have that stroke or they just pass away, right? And then you realize, oh my gosh, they were covering so much for dad or they were covering so much for mom. I tell people, figure out when your bright line rule is. Where is that bright red line that says, this is when I know that it's going to be time for long-term care. For people who are taking care of their spouse with dementia or with Alzheimer's, it's typically when they start to become more and more incontinent. I'm so tired, I can't keep up with it. There's messes all around the house. I can't do it anymore. It's all hours of the day. It's time to go to long-term care. For people with Alzheimer's or dementia who are wandering, the scariest thing is when I see on the news that a client of mine has a silver alert out there. But they're wandering in the middle of the night and they open the door. The caregiver cannot get any sleep. They're sleeping with one eye open, waiting for the next escape attempt. Your caregiver's not getting any sleep. That's hurting their own health, okay? So you've got to know when is that bright line rule. When they start to do this, then it's time, okay? I met with somebody yesterday. I really enjoyed meeting with her, and she told me, I can't remember the second thing, but the first thing she told her mom was, it's time for you to go to long-term care or assisted living for her was when you're not safe. I don't remember what number 2 was, but number 3 was that I want you happy. Those were her goals. Safe, something, and happy. She's like, and it's in that order. Of course I want you to be happy, but I'm concerned more about your safety than I am your happiness at that point. Okay? And I think that's really true. Again, go visit the assisted living facilities, go visit the nursing home facilities, go check out what the in-home care options are. Everybody's got a Department of Aging near them. Most places have an extension office, and the extension office has resources as well. Talk to an elder law attorney, talk to the social workers at the long-term care facilities, talk to the physicians, get recommendations, talk to your friends, and talk to your parents' friends. Which nursing home did you like? What was your experience there? I know which nursing homes that I don't want my clients at, and I know which nursing homes are okay for my clients, right? COVID made it really difficult because then it was just like, well, you were lucky to end up wherever you ended up. But thankfully, we're past that point now, and we at least have some choice. Talk with I don't want to get too much into the Medicare side. I'm not a Medicare expert in any way, but it is open enrollment period right now. And if you or your parents are eligible for Medicare, it is time to do your open enrollment renewal. That means you need to take a list of drugs that you are taking and go get your Part D prescription drugs checked out, figure out what's the best plan for you. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plans, Here's all I'm going to say about it. Go talk with your doctor's offices and talk with the social workers and ask their opinions about those plans. Now is the time to do it while it's open enrollment period, okay? If you are 1 foot, or you know somebody is 1 foot into the nursing home, take that insurance to the social worker at the nursing home and say, hey, is this okay? What happens if my dad, who has fallen 4 times, ends up here? Is this going to cover his rehab? Because what you're going to find is a lot of time those Medicare Advantage plans aren't going to cover that. Okay? So do some research. Know when it's time to make a change, but you've got to know what options are available to you at that point. All right, now we're to the important documents part of this. This is the part that I can just fly through. If you have questions, we have this little catch box thing. It's really neat. Just raise your hand and we'll throw the box at you. It's got a microphone in it, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Important documents. How many here want to avoid probate? Most of the hands go up. Really, everybody's hand should go up. But I'm not going to ask you how many of you actually know what probate is, but probate is a process of going through the court system to have your property, typically probate is passing your property from one person to the other, okay, or one from you to other people, to your heirs or to your beneficiaries. What most people don't understand or don't know is that just having a last will and testament does not avoid probate. Wills, in order to be effective, must go through probate. Okay? It's a requirement. Okay? Other important documents. There's such thing as probate for the living. Probate for the living happens if you don't have a financial power of attorney. That's called conservatorship. And if you don't have a medical power of attorney, that's called guardianship. So you can find yourself not only probate for the dead, if you're relying just on a will or if you don't have a will, but you can also find yourself in probate court, like Britney Spears, if you need a guardianship or a conservatorship. Healthcare directives. What is a healthcare directive? I've got 3 medical things that I give people when they hire me for an estate plan. We get lots of calls, hey, I need to have a will. And I said, well, do you have all these other documents? No, I just need a will. No, you really need all of these other things. Let me explain why. Healthcare directive is something that lays out who is going to make medical decisions for you if you are unable. Okay? If you are in a car accident and you are life watched to Kansas City and you're not able to consent to treatment, who's going to be able to consent to treatment on your behalf? Okay? It could be an end-of-life decision. Hey, when are we at the end? Who's going to make that decision? Who's going to make the decision regarding disposition of your body, whether we're going to have cremation or whether we're going to have traditional burial or something else? I've literally been involved with fights on that where the body was in the freezer for 2 weeks while the kids were hashing it out what we were going to do with mom or dad. It's very expensive and the funeral homes don't like it. Okay? So you want to have a right of sculpture in your medical power of attorney. They can also consent to organ donation and they can make decisions for your long-term care. So I always tell my mom, be nice to me because I'm going to pick your nursing home. Medical directives do not overrule you. Okay, your healthcare agent cannot overrule you. So even though I say, Mom, be nice to me because I'm going to pick your nursing home, if my mom is of sound mind and doesn't want to go to the nursing home, I, as her healthcare proxy, cannot make her go to a nursing home, or I cannot make her go to that nursing home or to that assisted living facility. I can't make her have that chemo treatment, okay? You are still in full control, and the medical power of attorney only goes into place if you're not able to make those decisions for yourself. The other couple of documents that I have is a HIPAA authorization that's a standalone document, works all over the United States. So if you're in a car accident in Arizona, at least the people are still going to, your family members are still going to be able to get access to information. And then the other one is a living will. I don't know if I have a living will slide. The living will is the document that says whether or not you want to live in a persistent vegetative state if your death is imminent. It's sometimes called an advance directive. If you do not have a living will, your family members may not be able to make that decision to quote unquote pull the plug. If you are on a ventilator, they may not be able to withdraw that. This is built out of case law. It was in the 80s. It was a Nancy Cruzan case out of Missouri. Basically, her parents wanted to remove her from life support, said she wouldn't want to live like that. Nancy was in her 20s. The hospital and then the state of Missouri said, nope, we are not going to let you withdraw life support. We are a pro-life state. You are going to keep Nancy on life support. And it went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. Ultimately, the United States Supreme Court said, absent any clear and convincing evidence, Nancy will not be removed from life support. So what is your living will? Your clear and convincing evidence that you don't want to live on life support. Another case that came out in the year 2000, you might be more familiar with, is the Terri Schiavo case. This was an argument between Terri Schiavo's husband and Terri Schiavo's parents about whether or not to remove the feeding tube. The feeding tube for Terri Schiavo was inserted and removed about 4 times. Each court, yes, remove the tube. The next court would stay it, put the tube back in, then it would come back out, and then it would come back in, and then it would come back out, and it would go back in. Went up to the United States Supreme Court. So you need to have living wills, you need to have advance directives. Whether or not you want it to say, keep me alive, do anything and everything in your possible power to do it, or no, I don't want to live that way, remove me from life support. Whichever way your decision is, it needs to be in writing. And that goes back to the open and honest communication with your kids. They should also know. Financial durable power of attorney. This is a really, really, really important document. It's really, my power of attorney is written really, really, really broadly. The power of attorney you're going to get from an elder law attorney is different than the power of attorney you're going to get from an estate planning attorney, and it's really different from what you're going to get from a general practice attorney. There is a form out there on the Kansas Judicial Council website that's kind of a freebie form. If you're coming to me as an elder law client, it's kind of junk. Right? If you're using that because, hey, I need to be able to sign a check for my husband while he's out of town, or I need to be able to do this for my kids, great, use that form. But if you're using this as elder law planning for yourself or for your spouse or for your parents, you really should consider seeing an elder law attorney. Power of attorney avoids court conservatorship in most instances. A lot of my job is fighting with banks and fighting with annuity companies and fighting with insurance companies to accept a power of attorney or to get them to do what we need to do. Shout out to the Kansas Insurance Commissioner. I don't know if she's here today, but her office is wonderful in assisting us with this all the time. Basically, under a financial or legal power of attorney, sometimes it's called a general power of attorney, sometimes it's called a durable power of attorney, sometimes it's called a financial power of attorney. They all mean the same thing. Basically, you are appointing a person or persons, can be more than one, that you trust to transact business for you and make legal decisions if you're not able to. The obvious thing is, oh, can I go to the bank and do things for mom or dad? That's easy. Most power of attorney documents are going to let you do that. Not all power of attorney documents are going to let you handle retirement accounts and take that required minimum distribution for them. Not all power of attorney documents are going to let you add a beneficiary to that account when the bank tells you, no, there's no beneficiary, it's going to have to go through probate when mom dies. Most power of attorney documents are not going to let you change ownership of accounts, adding or removing joint owners. My power of attorney does. Most elder law power of attorneys are going to let you. It may be that we want the power to create a trust or to revoke a trust. Oddly enough, the post office isn't going to let you pick up mom or dad's mail if it doesn't explicitly say in the power of attorney, you have the power to deal with U.S. mail. Okay? Without that, you're not going to be able to do those things. Last will and testament. Again, last will and testament is going to get property from A to B, but with the help of the probate court. Okay? You cannot avoid probate with this kind of thing. The will is required to go through probate. I don't remember the statute off the top of my head, but it has to go through probate. If you take that will into the bank and you try to access that bank account, they're going to say you need to go get letters testamentary or letters of administration. That means that you have to go to the probate court before you get access to that account or before you can sell that house. Okay? Wills are not going to protect you or your estate. Incoming the revocable trust. The revocable trust is private. It does not go through the probate court. and it is going to allow you to get property from A to B. The trust is also going to protect most of your property if your beneficiary is a person with special needs and is disabled and is on SSI or is on Medicaid. The trust is going to have provisions to protect that person, or should have provisions to protect that person. The trust is going to protect your minor kids. If I pass away, I don't want my kids to get that big life insurance policy that I have. They're 3 and 12. Do I want them to get it through a conservatorship when they're 18? No, I don't want them to get money when they're 18 either. I want them to get it at certain ages that I specify, and those ages can be changed anytime I want. Administration is more cost effective, so it does cost a little bit more money on the estate planning side to set a trust up while you're alive, but the administration of the trust is substantially more quick and more cost effective after you pass away. I usually have very little involvement with my clients' trust administration. It's usually one of their kids, or if they wanted a corporate trust officer, they can do that too. The trust provides creditor protection for your kids. I had a client one time that came to me and said, hey, what changes do I need to make to my trust? I reviewed it, told him a list of changes. He said, yeah, I don't want to pay you to do it, not a big deal. Well, he passed away, and the grandkid came to me because mom had died in the meantime. The grandson came to me and said, hey, my sister is going through bankruptcy right now, and we're going to lose the family farm, or his part of the farm, if it goes to him directly. Is there anything in this trust that allows us to withhold the distribution until that bankruptcy is finished? And I reviewed that trust, and I reviewed my notes. I said, no, it was one of those things I told your grandpa to do, and he didn't want to do it. So now the bankruptcy court's involved. Okay. Let's see. I went too far, I'm sorry. The revocable trust. Oh, it also, the big thing that it does is it protects your kids if they're going through a divorce at the time of your passing. The trustee can say, nope, I'm not going to give you that money until your divorce is finalized. Usually the burden is on the child to say, hey, I'm going through a divorce, don't give me that money yet. And the trustee will withhold that money and not make that distribution. So parents typically usually like that kind of thing. Irrevocable asset protection trusts are a whole nother thing that I don't really have time for to talk about today, but if you are interested in protecting assets and you have at least 5 years to do so, this is big in planning for people who have lots of farm ground or have some farm ground, or maybe they own 3 houses and the 2 kids are living in the other 2 houses, and we don't want the kids to lose their houses if we end up in a nursing home. Irrevocable trusts are the option. Revocable trusts will not ever, under any circumstance, protect your assets. So if you have assets or your parents have assets in a trust and you think that it's protected and it's fine, you are wrong if it is a revocable trust. 0% chance that that revocable trust, if established by your mom and dad, is going to protect assets. It has to be an irrevocable trust. There's some tax benefits to using trusts versus just making outright gifts. But if you're looking for asset protection, that is the tool. See me after if you want to get your name on my newsletter. I usually do a whole seminar on irrevocable trusts. It's like an hour and a half in and of itself. I'm happy to add you to the newsletter. It's quarterly. I don't have time to spam you or bombard you. I'm happy to add you if you want information about those. Substance abuse provisions, if you have blended families, again, revocable trusts, really helpful, really useful tools. Finding an elder law attorney. Early on, I talked about finding a NALA attorney. That's an attorney who is paid to become a member of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. It's not just that we pay the money and get nothing for it. We have lots of additional education, well beyond what is kind of typical or required of most attorneys. And it's dedicated solely to the practice of elder law. There is a find an attorney. So the website itself is mostly geared for the elder law attorneys, but there is a find an attorney feature there. And basically you just put in the zip code or the city and state of where you're trying to find an elder law attorney, and a bunch of names will pop up and you can choose one and call them. There's also such a thing as a certified elder law attorney. There's only 3. I'm studying for my exam. There's only 3 in Kansas, so it's not a super great resource depending on where you live. But NALA, like I said, there's about 40 of us around Kansas. Circling back around, what can you do if you're living in the sandwich generation? 1, prioritize self-care. 2, delegate where you can. 3, embrace a structure and a routine, pick that schedule up. Number 4, communicate openly. And number 5, know when it is time to make a change. So I don't know how much time I have for questions. Do I have any time? A little bit? A little bit of time. Okay. Up there, we can start there. We'll come down to you.
I toss.
I'll hang around out there too if you have questions after. Yeah.
Really? Oh, cool. Okay. I have, my parents recently just moved from Kansas to Georgia.
Okay.
My brother is taking care of the physical needs, but my parents made me power of attorney, and they have a will. We've got that taken care of. I have medical power of attorney. I have financial power of attorney. Do I need to do something different, or like, do you think we would be okay? I mean, I realize it's Georgia versus Kansas, but it was the documents that we did were pretty general. But I just made sure that we covered. I could find a funeral home. I could pay the funeral home. You know, whatever we
Sure.
needed to pay those final expenses,
Okay.
and make decisions if needed. But do I need anything else?
A couple things off the top of my head. Did they buy real estate in Georgia?
No, they're
Okay.
renting. So there's no assets. They've already sold the house.
Okay.
And I mean,
So I would just make sure they have beneficiary designations on bank account.
got
You know,
that.
to avoid probate, because again, the will isn't going to avoid probate. So beneficiary designations will override the will. And number 2, what I can think of is, so the will itself is fine between states. The general power of attorney for finances and legal decisions, full faith and credit, generally fine between states. Your medical healthcare documents probably need to be updated and revised for Georgia law, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where, you know, maybe it wasn't executed the same, you know, like in Missouri, we need our documents to be notarized and witnessed by 2 witnesses. In Kansas, I only need 2 witnesses or a notary. But so if somebody moves from Kansas to Missouri, they need new documents. We need to make sure that it's, you know, executed properly to Missouri. In theory, most hospitals are probably going to recognize the documents, but you don't want to find yourself in a situation like the Cruzans or the Shivos, or, you know, a situation like that where a hospital isn't going to recognize those documents. So I would recommend updating them to where you live. So, yeah. I had one, oh, I promise I'll get.
This is fun. I wanted to use this box. Quick question. Once you have a financial durable power and medical in the hands of someone,
Yep.
can the person who that covers, can they just go, well, that's not applicable anymore? When it's, I'm not giving you the example. My mom, bank accounts, everything. We went to the doctors. They said she's not in a position to make decisions about her finances anymore. All of these things were required by the banks. And then a bank let her come in, just shut things down, open up her new accounts, transfer stuff. And it's like, what on earth just happened?
So because you handed, just to make sure I'm understanding, you gave the bank a copy of the power of attorney, and they basically kind of shut her account down and opened up a different.
They had everything under my sister's authority to make the decisions about paying the bills and the finances and so forth. And they said, well, your mom came in and she seemed reasonable, so we let her just make those decisions. Yet all of the requirements that were required to give my sister that authority were met by the
Right.
doctors and everything.
So your parents, so even though you had a physician's letters, I'm not going to repeat the question because I think you can all hear it, but I was in 4-H, usually I repeat questions. So you're not deemed to be incapacitated just because you have a physician's letter that says she's not able to make those decisions. If you needed to completely lock your mom out of accounts, because she's, you know, giving money to, you know, the Nigerian prince. Okay, right. Then you would have to get a conservatorship. So even if there's a financial power of attorney in place, the court order or the deemed incapacitated by a court is through the conservatorship process. Typically, one of the alternatives, I'm very slow to use guardianships and conservatorships in my practice, especially starting in 2026 under the new laws, which are just disastrous in my opinion. So for now, to try to avoid the conservatorship, one of the ways, if your mom really doesn't have the capacity necessarily, is use that power of attorney to move the money to a different bank. Maybe one that mom doesn't really realize. You have to be careful about it. Obviously, you don't want it to be accused of just stealing money, so you don't want to move it to a bank account that's in your name. You want to move it to another bank account that's in mom's name, but maybe not one that she regularly uses or knows that, hey, this is how I get to that bank. A revocable trust, if the power of attorney allows you to create a revocable trust, you could put money in a trust and then kind of take her away from there. But banks cannot lock mom out. Even with the physician's letter, banks cannot lock mom out unless you have that conservatorship.
She got it in 3 different banks. 2 said no. We already have paperwork saying you can't make the decisions. Another
Yeah.
bank let her do it, and she overdrew.
Technically, all 3 of them should let her have access to the money. Yeah. No, not something you want to advertise, but technically all 3 should let her have access because she's not legally deemed incapacitated. So, yeah. We had one more question down here.
Yeah, if there's time.
Oh, what?
I just said if there's time.
Oh, I think we have a few minutes.
Thank you. Okay, so my grandma is very overwhelmed with where to begin with her will. She has an outdated will that she'd like to change. She called the lawyer that did it, and he's going to charge her $2,000. She has nothing. And so she's like, she can't spend $2,000 to get this changed. And she was thinking about just using the template that's online and getting it notarized.
Yeah.
But she's just really overwhelmed. She's thinking about all of these things. Where is like a good place to send her or like get her started? And
Excellent question.
like what's like the bare minimum
Yeah.
that she needs, I guess.
Excellent question. So the DIY stuff, do your wills on your own, do your power of attorney on your own. I do not recommend it under any circumstance. The Kansas Attorney General's office, when it comes to a financial power of attorney, says, go see a lawyer, get financial advice. So what happens if you cannot afford an attorney? Kansas Legal Services, which is sometimes known as legal aid, they do estate planning for people. And there's really good estate planning attorneys that work at Kansas Legal Services. Get on their list. You have to call or email. You can get an in-person consultation at most of the places, most of the offices, but you have to call or apply online. But they do estate plans, wills. I don't know if they do trust, but they do wills, medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, living will. All of that's going to be better than any template that you find online that may or may not be properly executed, may not be specifics to the state of Kansas. Certainly don't use ChatGPT to draw up your power of attorney. You laugh at this, but I did trust in estate litigation for 8 years, so I can tell you all the stories. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off that, I used to work at Kansas Legal Services.
Yeah.
And do that, so if you want to get with.
There you go.
They do the information directly,
Connection right there.
but they do transfer on death deeds.
Transfer on death deeds also. Yes, that's, I didn't know they did that. Thank you for reminding me of that. So Kansas Legal Services, she used to work there and she's got connections. So she can help answer those questions. But I would highly recommend KLS over just a DIY thing.